जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेफ टॉक्स। दिस इज आदि अचिंत। नए वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर के बारे में हम लोग काफी कुछ बात कर चुके हैं, ठीक है, लेकिन अभी टाइम आया है अरिंदम जी जो हमारे साथ हैं आज। ही इज जॉइंड अस टुडे। नमस्कार। फर्स्टली हमने इनके साथ डिस्कस किया
नमस्कार।
था हमने इनके साथ डिस्कस किया था रिमलैंड और हार्टलैंड थ्योरी, जिसमें हमने बात करी थी कि ये जो वॉर्स हो रही हैं ये क्यों हो रही हैं। एंड कहीं ना कहीं बोथ ऑफ अस रीच द कंक्लूजन कि ये जो वॉर्स हो रही हैं इसमें बॉर्डर्स चेंज होने वाले हैं, इसमें सिचुएशंस चेंज होने वाली हैं, इसके अंदर परसेप्शंस चेंज होने वाली हैं। तो कहीं ना कहीं वी नीड टू स्टार्ट अराउंड द वर्ल्ड एंड सी यार कौन सी जगह कहाँ जाके बैठेगी। ऑल्दो हम ये एक एपिसोड में डिस्कस कर सकते हैं, बट आई थॉट इंस्टेड ऑफ एक एपिसोड एक सीरीज करते हैं जहां पर एक सेक्शन बाय सेक्शन दुनिया में जाके हम लोग देखेंगे। उसके बाद वी कैन कल्मिनेट इट इन अ मेन इवेंट कि भाई ये दुनिया में कुछ बाहर आ रहा है, भारत का गेम क्या है, ऑब्वियसली दैट विल बी देयर। तो आज वी विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम हमारा जो सो कॉल्ड मदरलैंड ठीक है, द वाइट मैन्स वर्ल्ड कॉल्ड यूरोप। ठीक है, नाउ मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली यूरोप में काफी चेंजेस हैं। वी नो इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस है, फार्मर्स प्रोटेस्ट है, रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर है। तो आई लीव इट टू अरिंदम जी, कहां से ये शुरू करना चाहते हैं? which side does he want to take and how does he want to proceed with the show? So once again ji, namaskar, welcome to the show, and it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Good evening, Adi. Good evening to you, to your viewers. Great to be back. And where do I start about Europe? I have sent across the presentation. उसका जो first slide है जहाँ पे यूरोप को लेके बात करेंगे. There are 2-3 links which I want to start with. Number one is last podcast में one of your viewers asked me to point out towards a book and जो आसपास में मिला वो दिखा दिया. I have got one special book for you all. Okay, this book is called Dead Europe. This is hands down one of the best literary fictions that I have read in my life. This book is so unsettling, okay, that my wife, after reading this book, she said, "This book is evil. Please throw it out of the house." It's that bad. Okay. And it is unsettling. If you read
Wow.
this book, it will be unsettling to a lot of you. And incidentally, Adi, तुम अगर देखोगे, that's where the first slide में एक picture है. The presentation that we are going to share, that is, the next one, that talks about, that repeats the fact that Europe is dead. So in this presentation or in this session, we would be talking, both me and Adi would be talking about a lot of things, and there would be a certain amount of George Friedman and Robert Kaplan feel trying to predict and all. We can go horribly wrong. Just please remember the fact that we are only going to talk about the few constants that are there. There are hajar variables. There are loads of combinations that could come in play. So we are just going to talk about a couple of fixed things that are there as far as demography and economic strength, etc., are concerned, and how it might fare for these people in future. So coming back to the first point and the book called says Dead Europe, and Europe is dead. In fact, Europe was killed. That's what I believe. This book, Dead Europe, talks about Europe being cursed by Jews. Okay, so it's the curse of the Jews that's haunting Europe and that's gradually killing Europe little by little, which is a result of the Holocaust, of course. The way I see it, Europe's first death was achieved through Christianity. So that was the death of Roman Empire. Okay, the second death was, by the Second World War. Europe lost about 100 million people in the World War. So first World War, there were about 20 million people gone. Second World War, where there were about 60 million people gone, and then there were about 20 to 30 million people who died as an after effect of the Second World War. So कोई भी continents and Europe anyway is compared to India or China less populated. वहाँ से if you pull out 100 million people, that's a substantial loss, and Europe has not been able to recover from that. So Second World War के time में there was the second death which happened. The third death which happened as far as Europe is concerned is through NATO and through EU. NATO killed the European need for maintenance of an army, EU killed the European sense of enterprise. So Europe, forgot how to do business, forgot how to build enterprise, forgot how to build their economy. They started depending on NATO. आज के दिन में भी, if you go to Europe, visit any village anywhere in France or in Belgium or in Italy, very quaint, very nice, very good-looking place, but it looks like it looks like it is specially curated for tourists. There's no life inside. So you've got all these beautiful facades, and inside there's quite a different story. The local market has been killed by big brands, which is the reason why you see the farmers' protests and all which are happening. So there's big, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, big farmers, big sellers का monopoly, and there is big buyers का monopsony. So monopoly is when you are the one who's selling alone and there's no one to sell, no one else in the market to compete with you. And monopsony is when you are the single buyer or one or two buyers. So you could quote whatever price you want, and the farmer or whoever is selling to you is bound to pay you that. I mean, bound to sell you at that price. Otherwise, you're not going to buy from him. So it's a combination of monopoly and monopsony, which is sort of killed Europe, which is the result of a lot of European Union का interference. Second World War के बाद क्या हुआ? We have discussed this when we were discussing the world order, that Europe was killed by, there was a certain movement of this relativism movement, cultural relativism, social relativism, epistemic relativism. Nothing is fixed, everything is movable, which is basically the precursor to wokeness. That killed the identity of Europe. So there was this European identity which was based on religion and Hellenic civilization and Roman civilization and civilization values and ethos and all. And there was a lot of augmentation as far as Catholicism was concerned. That was completely destroyed. This wokeism destroyed that. Finally, now, last round, the whiteness of Europe is being destroyed by immigrants. Now, this is a tricky situation here. It is true that there's a huge amount of demographic downfall which Europe is undergoing. White population is on the decline. Any normal market would want to get immigrants. Abhi immigrant aa raha hai apna agenda leke, that's a different story, and that's another topic of discussion, one that we've had a lot number of times. So from here, Europe can only move in two ways. One is Europe tries to revive itself, and another one is Europe stays the way it is and continues the way it is. If it continues the way it is, Europe will serve as the petri dish for the new world order. They'll do all kinds of experimentation. Okay, so very small example. If you have predominant ethnic European population, ethno-linguistic European population, which are gradually fading away, the government is under less and less obligation to maintain that societal security and to pay you and all. So the government fundings will reduce because immigrants जो आ रहे हैं उसको उतना पैसा नहीं चाहिए. Government would want to save money and thus earn some more money. Once the paisa stops or once the paisa reduces to a trickle, all sorts of unseen and unknown and factors would come into play. There are a few states that might resist this. So we can move on to the next slide if okay. If Europe, however, tries to get out of the clutches of NATO and EU, so what are the revival chances? The first thing is that, as I said, that there would be a rapid brownization of Europe and money would reduce. Okay. Now comes the geopolitical aspect. Russia and Turkey would definitely try to extend their influence. Now, Turkey is Russia ka advantages hai, Russia ka disadvantages hai, but this session I would probably not focus on Russia that much as much I would want to focus on Turkey and Poland and Germany, etc., etc. Turkey ka jahan tak sawal hai, Turkey is going to try to project its power across 3-4 ways. Turkey is going to extend projection to the Caucasus, jisko Europe nahi pakadte hai. Turkey would try to project its power in the Mediterranean because wahan pe Turkey would want that access and control of the sea, which is where Turkey would get into a problem probably with Greece. And if Turkey gets into a problem in the Mediterranean, only France is the state that might come to the rescue of the Greeks, that might pair up with Greece, and that might stand.
Which they have said already.
Yeah, and France का issue है Turkey के साथ because Turkey is trying to push in Turkish political parties in France, which France doesn't particularly like. Now, these are known facts. What is not known is, Aadi, Balkans, okay, Albania, Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia. These places are these places are depopulating very fast. And if I were to club Romania and Bulgaria and Moldova with that and like call it extended Balkans, those three countries are also depopulating very fast. So you've got a Bulgaria which is like right next across Turkey. Turkey, there is a fair chance that Turkey would want to project in the Balkans because Balkans has historically been an Ottoman, backyard. Now there comes the problem. At the other end, in the Baltics, you have Lithuania and Latvia, which is depopulating. Latvia has started taking in Chinese people, and Latvia has started settling Chinese people there. A large number of Chinese people are settled in Latvia with a lot of benefits and so on and so forth. Latvia and Lithuania, if they start depopulating, Poland is going to scramble. Poland का दो जगह पे scramble करेगा Poland. एक तो Poland would want to exert its zone of influence into Latvia and Lithuania. The other place where Poland would want to scramble, which Poland would want to scramble for, is Ukraine. Ukraine, if the war ends the way we are expecting it to, east of Ukraine goes to Russia, then whatever is left, that rump Ukraine, whatever is left of Ukraine, Poland
That
would
be Poland.
My guess is Poland would go for a mad rush and try to capture as much of territory of Ukraine as possible.
Lviv तो वैसे भी Poland ही है.
Yeah, they consider that. The next issue that is going to come up is Poland is anti-Turkish, and in the sense that Poland is anti-Islamic. So the moment you've got a Turkey which is trying to project its power in Balkans, which there is a fair possibility, Poland would want to project its power into Balkans. And Poland is going to emerge out of this crisis, this Russia and Ukraine and West Europe and Germany industry going down the drain, and France thinking which day of the week it is right now, really not getting anywhere. Poland is the one country that would probably emerge strong at the end of it. If Poland emerges strong, Poland would definitely want to project. एक और भी reason है, Poland का geography अगर देखेंगे तो Poland is, in a kind of a dilemma kind of a position. It's like spot in the middle of Central Europe, which is again in Halford Mackinder's term, which is a crush zone. So Poland would always have a bigger power, so-called bigger power in Germany, and Poland would always have a Russia on the other side. And these two would want to crush Poland. Poland would want to get out of it. If it emerges strong, it has got a good population. It is probably the only country which is seeing some amount of, which is seeing some amount of population addition. It is economically, it is doing fairly well with German industry.
It has been militarily built up.
It is building up militarily in a real fast pace. Okay, they are onto something. If they think that they can project in Baltics and the Balkans, they are not going to, back out of it. So this is what it is. This is what it looks like it's going to be. There is a chance. There is an interesting chance that a terribly weakened Germany. I am assuming that United States' influence has like petered out, is on the wane. Okay, if that happens, the severe weakening of Germany that has happened in the past 2-3 years might see Germany try to warm up to Moscow once again. Because naturally, Germans, if you consider the geography, it is only to keep, because Germany has a natural tendency to club with Moscow. And it is only to keep, since history, yeah. And it is only to, and they have got pretty, like Tsar Katharina was a German. So there were a lot of or Russian Germans that were in Russia. Okay, a lot of Tsars had German blood in them. So Germany would want to go back, probably, if they want to go back. In fact, one of the reasons why Germany was carved and kept like this is because Germans have a tendency to, migrate towards Russia. So if that happens, then that might once again pitch France and Germany against each other. Germany has got a fair amount of good relationship with Turkey. So since we are, speculating, in the long run, we might see again a German-Turco alliance. And you've got a France at one point, you've got a Poland at one point. So this might be a situation. However, it is safe to assume that once United States' power wanes, once it is post-United States order in Europe, there would be ethno-linguistic nationalism. There would be a rise of it. So you would have a French nationalism, which is rising. You would have a German nationalism, which probably, I'm not sure about it, because Germans mein abhi kuch khas hai nahi bacha. Poland is nationalistic. Hungarians are nationalistic already. Okay. Giorgio Meloni is Dutch nationalism, yes. Meloni has come to power based on nationalist votes. Well, she might be towing the left line now, but the people who put her in power are hardcore nationalist people. Okay,
She's kind of balancing right now.
trying to, yeah. So you would have this rise of nationalism back once again in Europe. UK would fence it, side में बैठे रहेगा. They would enjoy people killing each other if it comes to that, and they would try to intervene when it benefits them, where it benefits them. So that's United Kingdom for you. But having said that, a lot of it would depend on whether Europe manages to stop the brownization, which, frankly speaking, Adi, I don't see happening, because this is a very real problem. Okay, that's as far as as I said, that plenty of things can go wrong, but that's as far as my assessment of Europe is concerned, based on very few constants. Can we move to the next slide? Okay. So in the Middle East, we've discussed that in the past, US was there for the oil, and presently Europe is there just to needle the surrounding areas of Middle East and the regional powers that depend on Middle East for their oil resources, for the oil and gas resources, for their energy. Okay. In this slide, you have एकदम नीचे में लिखा हुआ population, economy and hard power. And UAE, KSA, Turkey और ईरान के side में जो numbers है, those are all representative of those numbers. So UAE has seen a 0.0. UAE's population growth is 0.08, which is pretty bad. UAE's economy is pretty good. Growth has been 7.41, but UAE का hard power is very limited. Ditto for क्या बोलते हैं इसको, सऊदी अरेबिया में तो नेगेटिव पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ है. इकोनॉमी इज वेरी गुड, हार्ड पावर नॉट वेरी रिलायबल. So these two countries would be your stability influencer. These two countries, and which is what they've been trying. These two countries would try to keep Middle East as stable as possible.
And hence, run the show.
Try to run the show, yeah. Build up that structure, build up that administrative structure, and make it as bureaucratic as possible. Possibly try to go the EU way. Of course, that would have its own disadvantages, but ठीक है यार, अभी 50 साल तो चल जाएगा if they manage to crack that. Two disruptors here would be Turkey and Iran, because they have got hard power. Turkey's is the second largest army in NATO. Iran's is the largest army in Middle East. ये लोग का economy उतना strong नहीं है. And that is the only thing
declining.
And that is the only thing that is sort of pulling them back. अगर ये टर्की का इकोनॉमी वाज ऑफ सऊदी अरब का इकोनॉमी या दुबई का यूएई का इकोनॉमी, then there would be no holding Turkey back, right? The only unknown factors at this point in time, as far as Middle East is concerned, are Israel and Egypt. Israel का देखो एक चीज तो है, Israel is a good economy, but Israel is terribly handicapped when it comes to territory. उसको territory चाहिए. Okay, and this they have realized, if you can't be a Qatar, कहीं इसके साइड में कहीं उसके साइड में आप कर नहीं सकते हो. If you want to be a regional power, if you want to assert yourself, if you want your opinion to count, you have to have a certain amount of a regional presence. So Israel का एक problem है, Israel is very small. So, and Egypt right now doesn't. Egypt has historically been a very strong Middle East influence, but Egypt का अभी कुछ नहीं है. So I don't know what happens 5 years down the line, what kind of leader comes in Egypt. So these two are the unknown factors as far as Middle East is concerned. Can we look at the next slide? Power play में किसके साथ क्या क्या हो सकता है? So as I said, that Turkey will try to play win-lose. एक side Turkey might go into a confrontation with France and Greece. एक side Turkey might go into a confrontation with one of the Central European powers. Turkey would want to extend its influence into the Caucasus, especially Azerbaijan and those regions where it has influence. And Azerbaijan को influence कर पाया. हाँ बोलो.
हाँ, continue, finish your sentence.
Okay, Azerbaijan को influence कर पाया, तो that Shia population that is there in Iran, there are Iranian Shias, Iranian Azeris which are there in Iran. Okay, they can be used as a cannon fodder. They can be used as proxy. And Turkey, पिछले slide में क्या था? There are only two powers which are capable of military projection. One is Turkey and one is Iran. Turkey would want to do away with Iran as much as possible, because Turkey wants to remain the one and only in Middle East. There
That
is
is a war.
another, yeah. And Turkey, पिछले episode में बोला था, Turkey controls the water that flows into Middle East. So that's a huge leverage that Turkey has. So we may want to write Turkey off, but we may not be able to write Turkey off so easily. And everything said and done, remember two things. Turkey and Muslim Brotherhood, most of the times, are on the same page. Okay.
And
Muslim
Iran
Brotherhood
hates it.
Yeah. Muslim Brotherhood doesn't see eye to eye with Iran, doesn't see eye to eye these days with UAE, with Saudi Arabia. They are on the same page with Turkey. And so one side Turkey has Muslim Brotherhood, other side Turkey has United States with it. Okay, kuch bhi ho jaye. If United States sees that, okay, here in Turkey we have a regional power which is capable of destabilizing the Middle East, United States will put its full weight behind Turkey. That's another thing, okay, which you'll have to keep in mind.
उसमें एक थोड़ा कैविएट भी है.
हाँ बोलो, इजराइल का जब तक
नहीं, वो अलग है. जो सो कॉल्ड फ्री कर्डिस्तान है, ठीक है,
उसको
दैट इज एन ऑल्टरनेट. वो ऑल्टरनेटिव है ना टर्की का. तो
हाँ, वो टर्की को कंट्रोल में रखने के लिए. हाँ, वो टर्की को कंट्रोल में रखने के लिए. बट आदि देखो, they have ditched Kurds once during the time when this Russia started bombing ISIS and ISIS started upping and disappearing. When they so they have ditched Kurds once. They can ditch them again depending on the geopolitical mileage that they get. So I don't know. Let's hope Kurds keep Turkey busy. Okay.
Oh, they will. They are.
Okay, so as far as USA is concerned, we've discussed that they will continue to keep it destabilized. लेकिन उसका influence कम होते जाएगा because they are already probably contemplating on that. There are whispers of them reducing their naval presence and all in the long run, not immediately, but in the long run. As far as India is concerned, India would try to be a part where the stabilization process is a little consolidated. So India would try to partner with UAE and KSA, Saudi Arabia. China, interestingly, wants a bipolar world. China wants a world where there would be a USA and there would be a China as two powers, and there would be stability. So, in other words, in aapka aur mera geopolitical terms, China would want a world where United States controls the Western Hemisphere and probably, Western Hemisphere, and China controls Eurasia and Africa and everything over here.
Dream.
That is what China would want. Yeah. So they would want kind of, if that is the kind of stabilization that China wants, then China would be partnering with a Iran or a KSA or a UAE, not with the idea that you are my equal, but with the idea that you are my vassal. Okay. Israel ka we have covered. Egypt, it's pretty vague as of now. So I'm afraid I can't speak much about Egypt at this point in time. नीचे एक छोटा सा था कतर को लेके, वो तो रहेगा जैसे है वैसे ही रहेगा. जैसे यहाँ स्लाइड में नहीं दिख रहा है वैसे भी होगा, वैसे आपको रियल लाइफ में भी नहीं दिखेगा.
उसने अभी आपके साथ 20 साल का गैस डील साइन करा है, और उसने बेसिकली अपना एक थोड़ा सा फाइनेंशियल फ्यूचर सेटल इन कर लिया. एंड दूसरा है, बेस्ट इज ही इज गिविंग अस द गैस इन लेसर प्राइसेस देन व्हाट ही वाज गिविंग बिफोर. मतलब amazing life.
Yeah. All right. Coming to India, so we have covered the western side of Rimland almost. Coming to India, India's advantage is that India is a consumption-driven economy. So, Germany is an export economy, Russia is an export economy, China is an export economy, अपना क्या बोलते हैं, USA is a war economy, India is a consumer economy. हम लोग खुद बनाते हैं, खुद खाते हैं. So that is why we are pretty much insulated. And that's why the 2008 wala crisis didn't hit us very bad the way it hit other people, because there's a lot of interconnectivity. India mein, thank God, wo interconnectivity tha nahi, abhi bhi thoda kam hai. So India's economy looks safe as of now. It looks good as of now. Our energy sources, our relationship with Middle East, ye Qatar ke saath, ye kam paise mein gas mil raha hai, oil mil raha hai. We've got good relationship with Saudi Arabia. We've got decent enough relationship with Iran, and whatever little strain that we have with Iran understands that it is because of the sanction that has been driven by the West. So there's nothing much that we can do. So we've got our energy sources with us stable. with this war economy, Mr. Modi, अरे India China के साथ war में जा रहा है वाला economy, with this war economy which which Mr. Modi had a chat about. So it might see that the manufacturing, which has been a little bit of a problem for India, might go up. The standards might go up, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed about good R&D facilities and all coming, making their entry. Demography of India is going to remain good for the next 20, 30 years. After that, there would be a decline. So that's
2050
something
onwards.
which 2015, huh? Okay, so that's another 25 years. Yeah. So that's something which the planners need to focus on. And since we know so much already, probably put an action plan in place on how to see that, how to ensure that the 2.1 replacement population wala thing maintains. Okay. India's non-expansionist focus. Now, this is an interesting point, which is my personal guess, is that because we are non-expansionist, we naturally come across as more reliable. So India's biggest USP would be if India manages to convince the other regional players that, Indian Ocean, apne pe chhod do, Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean, we are going to be the naval policeman over here. That is going to be a massive, hard power and soft power win for India also. As far as soft appeal is concerned, soft power appeal is concerned, India's got a very good soft power appeal, but there's much more that we can do.
Yeah.
Okay, soft power is not just Bollywood, and soft power is not just yoga. And yoga ko bhi, jisko bhi mood mein aaya, kuch bhi bana le raha hai, somebody is calling it Western, somebody is calling it something else, and creating their own videos and going crazy about it.
Versions of yoga.
Different versions of yoga. I think there are certain things like yoga we need to reclaim. Okay, and there are certain things which we need to push across to the rest of the world, especially where it concerns our own, the cultural base of our civilization and all, and they can be wonderful selling tools as far as soft power is concerned. The weak links that we have, 3 weak links came to my mind offhand. Ek to hai media, ek hai our borders are weak. We need to get better borders, and media के साथ साथ academia में भी जो illegitimate fundings होता है, if you can put a stop to that. If you can do these 2-3 things, at least these 2-3 things, we'll be in a much, much safer place. And for the next 20-30 years, it will be a good run. It will be an interesting run for us. Okay. So I think that was the last slide, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
No,
Okay,
sorry.
so okay, hippie trail. ये तो है Rimland, but इसको, interesting thing, when I was going through the West Rimland part and all different maps and different pictures, ये वाला hippie trail वाला आ गया. It used to start from West Europe, cover Turkey, and then, through Iran and Afghanistan and all, reach
from Paris.
India. Yeah. Starts Paris, in fact, starts across the other side of the English Channel, and then Paris and Italy and probably, Turkey se leke, Iran se leke. So, this is almost the region that we have covered. So, my 2 guesses are that if United States decides to stay back, and if Europe is okay with it, then Europe becomes a petri dish, and Europe brownizes very fast. If Europe goes solo, if Europe revives its nationalism and things like that, there would be chaos, there would be conflicts, but eventually there would be a certain semblance of stability that will come. Middle East, I don't see getting very unstable, getting very destabilized, because 2 of the biggest sponsors of Islamic radicalism of yesteryears, which is Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, these 2 guys have cooled down, and they seem pretty serious about it. So if the focus is on stability, ये 2-4 साल चलेगा, उसके बाद it is going to get stable.
Yeah.
India is hopefully going to enjoy a good run if there's consistency of leadership and vision. China का मैंने बोल दिया, they would want a bipolar world का return. United States would remain as that irritant, United States might even become a gun for hire like Pakistan in the next 10-15 years. Okay. And the focus is that, in like the way there's true multipolarity, where you've got several power centers and several influence centers, and each one of them keep theirs and other person's business and, other interests in mind, and works towards preserving and maintenance of a balance. We might see that in the next 20-25 years. That's my guess as far as Asian side of the rimland, this side of the rimland is concerned, Europe will probably see some stability if it moves out of the clutches of NATO and EU after a point in time. There would be a series of unstable times in the near future. Okay, बहुत बोल लिया यार.
नहीं, इंटरेस्टिंग. आपने जो 3-4 हाइपोथेसिस दिए हैं, which is very interesting. I want to kind of we will obviously address Middle East affairs in the next this thing. आपने एक hint दिया है उसके अंदर because it is all connected. But let's kind of focus on to Europe for a little bit. यूरोप में जो एक मेजर जियोपॉलिटिकल इवेंट है इस टाइम पे which is the war, ठीक है. एंड whatever said and done, अमेरिका ने एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग सी चीज करी है that they have basically hitched European interest into this war. फंसा दिया है यूरोप को. And the amount of money that Europe has actually given is more than what the Americans have given, by the way. Hard cash. Right? Only thing is Americans have given more weapons. So that kind of balances everything out. But hard cash ke hisab mein Europe has given almost 85-87 billion dollars as far as till about I think August September last year. Okay, and the next package also Ursula was talking about was another some 70-80 billion that they were talking about for the future this thing. So that is one drain factor that I find. If the Europeans are not able to come out of that, right, if they're not able to shrug it off, which is what guys like Viktor Orban, जो हंगरी का है, धीरे धीरे करके बिलोनी की आवाज थोड़ी थोड़ी बाहर निकलनी शुरू हो गई है. And since her आवाज is coming out, by the way, Italian economy has picked up this year. Huh? It's shown a positive trend, which has not happened for the past 10 years. So Italian economy has shown that little jhatka start sort of a thing. There's another wild card in this entire thing, which I want to talk about, which is Greece. Right? Turkey ka to hai. We know what the game of Turkey is, but Greece kahin na kahin, where the Greek interests now are combining with Indian interests. Right? We know Mitsotakis is on his way now. I think he's here 21st to 24th February for that Raisina dialogue. He's the chief guest. Okay. So this is something which is very interesting, because if Greece can be strengthened up from here and generically, that will reduce the Turkish influence in that region quite a bit, because Greece also controls a large part of the Mediterranean. Yeah. Although the entry to the Black Sea, theek hai, but for that Russia is there. Right? So kahin na kahin, if the Europeans, what I'm trying to come to finally, and please give me your comments to this alternative, if the Germans and the Europeans can make nice with the Russians, right, which I think is going to start happening because they've already started buying oil and fertilizer and all that nonsense. And the way Europe is turning right slowly, you've got EU elections happening in June, right? June, July? June में. हाँ, June में.
May, June.
तो June में, हाँ. अगर वहां पर कुछ switch होता है, then this entire thing kind of flips across. Greece becomes a major player. Poland, of course, becomes a major player, backed by the Americans for the north and all that. But ये जो Turkish importance है अभी, that will fall completely.
Yeah.
That's something which is very interesting to me, because a lot of Europeans would be very happy with the Turkish kind of going into the ground. Right? He's the blackmailer of Europe.
Yeah.
So how do you see that? Because to me, I think a new European order has to be with a diminished Turkey, and not because we are Indians and I hate Turkey or whatever, but I think that is more important than a diminished or a weakened Russia or anything like that. Because to me, Turkey is more damaging to these guys than anything else. So how do you see this situation? For that, Greece needs to be built up. Greece is talking to you, BrahMos, this, that. He's talking to the Americans, F-35s are coming in. You know that, right? The Turkish got F-16s for their Sweden ka sign. And 3 days later, the Americans approved F-35s for Greece. So, So how do you see this?
Okay, see, Greece का issue है. Greek, uh, Greece is not a very strong economy.
That's there.
Greeks make
That's the problem.
Greeks make wonderful air force, guys. Okay, Greece
Hellenic
is
Air
the
Force,
only
yes.
country, हाँ, जो वो एयरफोर्स वाला जो कंपटीशन होता है इसमें नेटो वेटो ड्रिल में they are consistently, they are always the first place earners. They take Turkish Air Force like this, you know, they take them for a ride. They would take them for a ride any day, and Turkish army, Turkish Air Force is shit scared of the Greek Air Force. Greeks are very good fighters. The issue with Greece is that, you know, India selling a couple of weapons or America approving a couple of weapons sale to Greece is fine. But the thing is that that again, population economy.
May
Population
not be a
economy.
power center, but maybe a check to the Turkish.
Yes, they that's what I'm saying, that when Turkey starts exerting its power in the Mediterranean region, the first country that they would be facing is Greece. And that is the point. If it plays out, you might see a France coming and trying to help Greece because French, you know, they have a problem. There is another interesting thing, Adi. I don't know if you've heard of this. China is planning to cut a channel through Balkans, which is going straight up to meet the river Danube, and that's going to travel ekdam right into the heart of Western Europe. If they do that, that is going to reduce a lot of dependence on Turkey as far as passing, you know, the containers passing through Turkish water is concerned. And Turkey is very jumpy about this whole thing.
IMEC is jumpy about.
Jumping about a lot of things, but this is a very drastic plan. This is a very, you know, this is a very, it's a gigantic, this is that typical China Belt and Road wala kind of a plan. They are planning to cut a tunnel straight through the Balkans and right into the heart of Europe, जहाँ से, you know, the big ship, the big containers and all would pass, which is giving Turkey nightmares. And that's something which is again not going as far, but then the rest of Europe is pretty okay with it. Coming back to what we were discussing, all of this, you know, Poland exerting itself or Turkey exerting itself or maybe Turkey's power diminishing, all of it is going to depend on whether United States wants to leave Europe alone. If Donald Trump comes in tomorrow and if he says, okay, NATO, enough is enough, abhi nahi paisa denge, there is a
अगला
chance
सवाल यही
that
था. अगला सवाल यही था आपसे.
And if that happens, I mean, it should happen actually. You know, call it nationalism, bolo, kuch bhi bolo. It is high time we see these regional powers actually, you know, express themselves in the way and the way the world is shaping up. कि यार तुम लोग किसी का identity नहीं है. The only identity that you have is European Union, and your names are like, the flags are like tags and they are hanging from somewhere. Nobody gives patta to you. We don't know what Poland is capable of. We don't know what France is capable of. And Adi, जो तुम पैसा देने का बात कर रहे थे ना इस यूक्रेन को, if United States stops pushing these guys, they're not going to put in a single paisa into Ukrainian war. ये जितना भी कर रहे, it is all because of United US pressure. That is what they're doing.
That is interesting. आप जो बोल रहे हो, this is very, very interesting. क्योंकि there is a, see the China game, these guys have also started realizing यार ये China को ना थोड़ा trust करना थोड़ा मुश्किल है. So you can see them kind of supplementing themselves from China right now. जो भी बचा कुछ आया है China से अपने factories के लिए, अपने जो भी चीजें लेनी है आपको लो. And that's why you see a lot of the trade kind of building up towards this thing. And one of the stupid things that is happening is that since this war is here, a lot of the trade of China, you know, this war which is basically backed by China, you know, China-Iran nexus. अब जो यूरोप इससे चाइना से ट्रेड करने की कोशिश कर रहा है वो भी फंस जाता है इसमें. So as a matter of fact, yesterday a news came out that the Chinese are now telling the Iranians कि यार इनको बोलो थोड़ा कम करो भाई, मेरी इकोनॉमी वैसी डब्बे में जा रही है. I'll be.
They are.
Reuters has
ये
reported
अपना,
it. Yeah.
अच्छा. That's the other day we were talking about Red Sea is causing China 60% dip in its
See,
trading.
the problem which people don't understand, there's a big problem in this game. Traditionally, all the the what do you call insurance was done by the Lords in London, right? The maritime insurance. Now, because this Russia-Ukraine war happened, they said, "Oh, we will not insure Russian this thing and all that nonsense." China and India have started doing it. Okay. And that is only successful till the time there's no incident. Let's be very clear on it, because the payouts are bloody big. $500 million, $800 million, and all that nonsense. So this it's a bit dicey, and the Chinese know. These bloody Indians have gone and spoken to Iran and got themselves free. A lot of people are pointing a finger at me already. One thing hits me, I am finished. See why? We are still closer, right? If a Chinese trade, if he goes across the African this thing, then he has to cross across India. The bloody thing is too long. एंड आप तो फिर भी INSTC से लेके आ रहे हो अभी भी सामान थोड़ा बहुत, पता है आपको? सेकेंडली यू हैव एन ऑप्शन कि आप एक ग्राउंड रूट भी बना रहे हो. बाय द वे, वी आर सेंडिंग सामान इनटू इजराइल, थाईलैंड एंड इंडिया through the ground route in Saudi Arabia. It's going by trucks right now. 2 portions of the railway is still yet to be built. ठीक है, उसके लिए वो contracting and the ground work is happening right now. तो ये बड़ी interesting situation है.
That's in effect the Middle Eastern corridor, which is also come into action.
Which is come into action. Now, if that thing comes into action, China's entire dream goes for a toss then. So Europe will have to kind of take a call कि भाई कहाँ बैठूं मैं जाके? Where do I sit? And I don't think there is any more region in the world which is in a more precarious position than Europe. I think इनकी हालत सबसे खराब है.
Yeah.
Europe
का भी हाँ बोलो.
नहीं please.
I'm saying Europe has got it's riddled with too much of problems. At the one side, they've got a declining population, which is hitting the economy. A declining population means declining white population, which means your productive population is going to get retired or has retired in large numbers. Okay, forget about Islamization, forget about Turkification and all of those things. You're getting in new people, you're getting in immigrants. But you've so far failed to integrate them with the society. Assimilation को बात छोड़ दो. मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा हूँ कि यार तुम ब्रिटेन का झंडा उठा के भागना शुरू करो. Not required. Are these guys skilled enough to replace those workers that are getting out of the job? They are not. So ये लोग किस काम के लिए आ रहा है? So you've got a reducing white population, which is your core productive population. You are putting in a lot of immigrants who are unproductive people who are sitting here to destroy the government grants and the government freebies, which is going to go down in future. Your economy is gone, shipped to United States. Your productive economy is being shipped out. Abhi ESG ka locha leke. Germany has always been the economic powerhouse of Europe. That's actually what has been pulling mainland Europe for such a long time. Now German economy khatam ho gaya hai. So Europe, तुम बोल रहे हो चाइना का बात बोल रहे. I am thinking as I'm listening to you, but to my mind, what comes is that Europe has got much bigger problems to handle right now than think about whether my relationship with China is important or whether my relationship with someone else.
They trade, they're so intrinsically connected with China with regards to trade. Europe is bad condition that way. I mean, if the German industry has to do anything, it has to be connected with China. There's no way that they can function without it. So that is a very critical factor for them. If they're not able to do it, बहुत हालत खराब होगी इनकी. China को तो जो होगा.
And if it comes to that China's vision of a bipolar world where China controls Africa and Eurasia actually comes to pass, then China has already made deep inroads inside Europe. So it will try to take advantage of it, full advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take one last subject, because there is a difference between the older Europe and the newer Europe, right? And that difference is demography. Right? Today's world, if we don't, आज हम लोग अगर demography नहीं देखेंगे, it's useless doing a geopolitical analysis, because that's the key. There are guys I know who are saying China will fail in 10 years because the demographics just don't support what they're doing. And he's connected with economics and stuff like that. There's a whole different discussion. You've kind of hinted on demography being out counterbalanced by the brownization of Europe, right? Assimilation remains a big factor in that entire game. The demography of Europe does not allow it to take any radical decisions today, right? You see countries like Belgium gone, Dutch certain areas, Molenbeek and all that area, Reykjavik and all that is finished. It's over. Sweden also, there are certain places where there's a huge amount of problems. I'm not too sure whether Europe will be a viable market going forward. What do you think about that?
Very true. Very true. So it is not probably, if you take whiteness, the white people out of Europe, Europe ceases to exist the way we've known it. And when we say ceases to exist the way we know it, we mean things like, we mean brands like Volkswagen, we mean those highways, and we mean those huge container ships, and we mean the things that we've come to associate Europe with. Okay, Europe ceases to be. If Europe ceases to be like that, then Europe becomes another lump of unproductive region, like a third world country. If too much of brownization happens, that this is what you would see, because you're taking in a set of people who you're failing to train in any way, in terms of you're failing to train them technically, you're failing to train them culturally. Forget it. It's a wasted effort, with all good intentions in mind. I mean, even if I'm discounting the fact that you want to destabilize Europe and वो सब छोड़ दो, I'm assuming that people are doing this with the best of intentions in mind, that labor population को हम ला रहे Europe में, we are supplanting new labors from Africa and from Middle Eastern country. You fail to train them in every step of the way. You fail to train them. What then is left of Europe? I think, Aadi, that is where I think Poland's projection, a country like Poland trying to project, and a country like Poland trying to stay relevant in that vacuum that is being created in Central Europe, makes so much of
Stay
sense.
white also. Stay white also.
Poland means white Catholic. Okay.
No,
Trying to project is...
वहां पर एक गेम है. If you can add this to you, बेलारूस को ऐड करिए इसके अंदर, इस इक्वेशन के अंदर.
Belarus has a lot of Russian influence, and Poland, because of its historical, animosity with Russia and anything to do with Russia. But Poland is, again, ये है Russia के खिलाफ है, but Poland ideally naturally should gravitate towards Russia.
It should.
Central Europe का जहां तक सवाल है ना, middle Europe, not Central Europe, middle Europe का जहां तक सवाल है, most of these countries, you talk about Romania, talk about Hungary, Belarus, Moldova, Poland, they are all natural migrants towards Russia as far as power and influence is concerned. Now, if Poland wants to, Poland doesn't want to accept that, Poland wants to assert itself in its own way as the single largest power in Central Europe, so be it, not a problem. But if Europe were to reassert itself, white Europe, the way we know it, classical Europe, the way we have heard about it, then that's one country which is capable of. And I have still not lost hope on France. I still think France has got a flicker somewhere.
Oh, they do.
So
I kind of have hope on France. I kind of have confidence in France. Let me be brutally honest. We may differ in this particular thing, but I have confidence in France on two reasons. One, he's got his own technology. He's got demographics, and he knows how to deal with people. Whatever said and done, when the French right comes to it, they will bloody throw people out without caring. And which they also showed during the riots. When the French nationalists came out, the riots just went quiet. Sab thap ho gaya tha wahin par hi. They've got their own armed forces, they've got their own nuclear weapons. Plus, resource-wise, France is almost 80% self-sufficient. It can produce its own oil also, you know that. France has oil fields.
Yeah.
So, and it's got options in the Indo-Pacific. Bugger has good allies. He's linking up with India, another growing power.
He's linking up with India, yeah.
by the way, France, UAE, India has a trilateral. ठीक है? He wants to be involved in everything. So France to me has a huge opportunity to kind of lead Europe, unless, I mean, Macron is a nice guy, but
Yeah,
I don't think
Gil
he
Scott
has
is
it in him.
on. Yeah, he's a very perceptive guy. I've read that interview of his, and trust me, Adi, one of the best interviews of any politician that I've ever read. Macron ka interview. I'll try to share with you if I have the word file. The guy is deep, but the problem is, again, at the end of the day, you have to understand he's a political leader, and they have got historic ties with United States. There is a limit to what he can do. But the one thing about France is it's a nominal member of NATO. So वो डगॉल के टाइम में निकल के भी आ गया था. So that bit is there. There's
68.
always this streak of French assertion somewhere. So France, Poland, yes, we can put our hopes on these two countries, and we can think of a possible revival of Europe post America if America leaves Europe the way Europe wants to be left, basically.
Thanks so much, yaar. This has been a fantastic discussion. मजा आ जाता है,
Thank you.
to rattle your brains in this kind of this thing. थोड़े से सवाल जवाब ले लेते हैं. And guys,
Yeah.
I'm going to announce the next topic right now. The next topic is going to be the reorganization of the western part of the Middle East. We'll have to focus that a little hardcore. Arindam ji, if you're okay with that, why I want to do that area specifically is because let's address the Turkey, Mediterranean, Black Sea, Syria, Lebanon, Israel question. That's a big question that needs to be answered. क्या होगा वहां पर? ठीक है, Jordan, there's that. क्योंकि there is a lot which is actually playing across at the back end, right? I have done some research on this particular thing. मैं आपको कुछ भेजता हूँ,
Please
which
share with me.
I'm going to cover on the channel on Saturday night, right?
Okay.
And I've already done this. Unless something really big happens, my topic for Saturday night that I'm going to cover, I don't normally announce it, but मैं बोल देता हूँ. It is basically, is IMEC on or off? What's happening behind the scenes? And there's a lot which is happening behind the scenes. Apart from some bloody trucks going up and down, there are a huge amount, right? There are statements, and there's fire, and there is this, and there is that, which tells you there's a lot of heat on this particular thing. So next time, I think we can discuss this area so that it'll kind of go on with the IMEC discussion into the ground geopolitics of this. It'll be really fun. ठीक है जी. तो guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like करिए वीडियो को, सब्सक्राइब करिए चैनल को अगर आप लोगों ने नहीं करा है. Most importantly, spread the word about Dev Talks, यार, वो सबसे ज्यादा important है. Always share the videos with your friends, family, and so that we grow as a community. We are at 156,000. Last week has been pretty good as far as the subscribers is concerned. We've gained almost 6,000 in about 4-5 days, so damn good. Also, you can contribute towards the DevTalk efforts. For direct contributions, you can use the QR code up there, or you can use PayPal for those of you staying outside the country, या फिर आप सुपर स्टिकर्स और सुपर चैट्स भी यूज कर सकते हैं. लेट्स सी आप लोग क्या कहते हैं. ऑलराइट, let's start. Yeah, here we have. I kind of mark the questions and keep it so it's easy for me to kind of find them. Khet Khodan Bano Bij Ropan Begam. That's an interesting name. Thank you so much for your contribution. You say, looking at Islamization, increase in energy price by Ukraine war, in import prices from China and Red Sea crisis, is the actual attack on Europe?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, just look at Islamization. Look at the biggest thing. Look at the blowing up of Nord Stream. ऐसा तो लग रहा है कि United States is like has decided, it's hell-bent on destroying Europe the way Europe is. अब पता नहीं इतना क्या वो लोग के ऊपर ये है प्रॉब्लम है यूरोप के साथ. बट या आई मीन रेड सी का हूती का प्रॉब्लम है. यूरोप इज वन ऑफ the two regions that are getting affected the most. One is China and one is Europe, because in dono ka jitna bhi saman hai that goes to Red Sea. So yes, Ukraine war is devastating Europe. There's a massive immigration crisis which is already there, which is compounding the prevalent immigration crisis, which is again 2014 2015 ka Syria and Libya ka crisis hit Europe. So yeah, as we keep saying, and we've had a couple of discussions, me, Adi, and all, this seems like a concerted effort to sort of brownize and to destroy Europe the way it is.
Yep. And that's what Bharatji is also saying. Adiji, we think the USA has achieved what it wants to achieve. Europe is not of any use, and USA's policy is to use and throw, and will dissociate with Europe. I explain it in a little different way, that the war on the ground is over. Post Ukraine, the ground war of Central Europe is over. You don't have the Soviet armies of 50, 60,000 tanks rolling down the bloody steppes and the steppes of Ukraine and all that stuff. It's not going to happen. So mere hisab se the next war, and this is something I mentioned on the channel before, I don't know if you'll agree with me, the next war is in the Arctic. And for that very reason, the Russians have built 19 military bases on their side of the Arctic. And that is why you see that Finland and Sweden has been brought into NATO, so that battle could be kind of kept up. How far the US stays in NATO is a different question altogether. But this is something that I see happening ki Sweden and Finland ke andar, and by the way, Finland has agreed to 17 military bases of the Americans in their country. 17. उसके पीछे आपने जो एक चीज बताई, पोलैंड बिल्डअप हो रहा है, which is a back base.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And
So
Poland and
Central
Sweden might.
Germany,
And Poland and Sweden might find a lot of common grounds, because Poland is focusing more on a land army, Sweden is focusing more on a naval army. So they might see common grounds across a lot of things. Yeah. So again, then that brings us back to the point, Adi. Then NATO is not going to leave Europe anytime soon. So whatever remains of Europe is going to turn into a petri dish as NATO busies itself with readies itself for another war, this time in the North Sea area with Russia.
Let me flip this. Let me flip this for you. Let's be a little argumentative. Okay, थोड़ा सा लड़ाई करते हैं.
Please. Okay.
Let me flip this for you. I say NATO is going to go in the way that USA will not have that kind of influence or that kind of positioning within Europe, physical positioning.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the USA's military doctrine, which is changing, right? It's going from a destroyer heavy navy to a carrier heavy navy. Right? They've got what? 11, 12 jump carriers and 12 super carriers. Right? So that's 24 as it is. Plus the bugger is building another, I think, 8 or 10 super carriers which are supposed to be coming in the next 8-10 years.
Yeah.
What that tells you is hitting power. That's not patrolling power. I mean, you can take out a country with 3-4 carriers, yeah. Rubbish it completely. Okay. What that tells me is the physical involvement of NATO in Europe will not be there. But when something does go down, power projection value will still be there. So you said a cop on hire. I think I'll upgrade that to a SWAT team.
But that's still a cop on hire, right?
Yeah. I mean, basically, yeah.
Yeah. I can extend that, and I can think of something else. I can see a portion of Europe getting out of NATO, while Sweden and Norway and all of these countries sort of carry the NATO legacy forward, with United States, of course, being there. Because again, going back by the focus of the Arctic polar cap and the ice cap melting, and a lot of opportunities coming up, and that is basically Russia's backyard. So Germany as a NATO member, or Spain as a NATO member, is not going to be of much help as much as a Sweden or a Norway as a NATO member would help United States. That is considering United States' projection power and focus still stays the same. But the question here is, would it stay the same in the next 5-10 years? Now, I don't know.
So
There's one
this is
thing
a good
about
argument.
yeah, there's one thing which George Friedman says, that geopolitics is, well, one of the assumptions of geopolitics is that states are rational actors. आज के
Yeah,
दिन में तो कोई भी state
I don't
rationally
think
act
so.
नहीं करता है यार.
I
Yeah,
don't think so.
exactly.
I don't think so.
Uh,
It's like
he
it's
he
like
wrote
that.
he wrote this book 60 years ago. States used to be rational.
Yeah.
Well, there was
You
a
know,
clear cut distinction. अभी कौन rational है बोलो? Is
you also
Pakistan
had guys
acting
like Fukuyama who said the end of history.
end of history? No, but
I mean,
Fukuyama is an idiot. Let's be honest. But this guy makes a lot of sense. Of course, he's very US centric. He's like a Brzezinski, like a couple of shades lighter than Brzezinski, because that guy went out and waged war. This guy just writes books and influences think tank. But he makes a lot of sense. And this is when he was describing the concept of geopolitics and what geopolitics hinges on. He says one of the assumptions of going ahead with international geopolitics is that you expect the states to be rational actors. लेकिन looking at United States, तो अभी तो वो भी पता नहीं कौन rational है कौन irrational है.
Pakistan, China,
हाँ,
US,
सऊदी अरेबिया, सऊदी नहीं, sorry, क्या टर्की.
Turkey.
हाँ.
यार आपका नाम मेरे को थोड़ा छोटा सा बता दो साहब, इतना लंबा नाम है आपका, बट थैंक यू सो मच मैन फॉर योर कंट्रीब्यूशन. खेत खोदन बानो बीज रोपण बेगम. I don't know what that means, but in any case, EU is dumped by design. Watch Europa, the last battle. Yeah,
Okay,
I've
watch that.
read that story. Yeah, well, it kind of hints on similar things, but it shows a complete end of Europe, which I don't think is kind of there right now.
Not so easily. Not in the next 15-20 years at least.
Yeah. US is retreating from their erstwhile geopolitical fortress worldwide. There are no new territorial invasions recently. Where and how US is trying to build global strategic positions. I think we just discussed that with a maritime hitting power. That's just about it.
Maritime hitting power, and they have this North Sea right now to focus upon. बाकी का मुझे लगता नहीं United States has any strategic vision as of now, given the way they're running things, infiltrating their own country for vote bank politics, जो कि अपना वेस्ट बंगाल में आज से 70 साल पहले 100 साल पहले किसी ने कर दिया था. So I don't think they've got a coherent strategy in place as far as their power projection is concerned, the way it used to be at one point in time 50-60 years ago.
If there's an alternative to the Suez Canal via Israel, you know that route, right? The Elliott Port, काट के.
That Ben Gurion Canal, ना, जो बनाने का plan
but
चल
the
रहा है.
problem is that also goes through the Red Sea, ना. तो वो भी issue है.
That goes to the Red Sea, but their idea is to cut Suez Channel out or Suez Canal out, or maybe even just half the business. वहां से तो transit जाएगा तो उसको तो अच्छा पैसा मिलेगा. Now you're talking about the Houthi problem still being there. I'm sure जब तक Houthi रहेगा तब तक ये काम नहीं शुरू करेगा.
I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Yeah, पहले तो इसको निपटाना है, and that is not going to be very easy.
यार Houthis have got a geopolitical relevance which was not there before. Correct. It got a geopolitical relevance suddenly जहां पर नहीं था उसके पास. वो 9 साल से लड़ता रहा वहां पर. He didn't get a word in the media. Today every Tom, Dick and Harry says Houthi. They're like, yeah, damn good यार. फोड़ते रहो. बढ़िया है ये तो.
And this has been possible because of the advent of hybrid warfare. Like, you taking a $2 bow and arrow and destroying $1,000 ship. So that's the scale of this has made it so incredible. They're all in the limelight.
Akshay Iyer Saab says, yes, Minister, why European Union fails makes it clear. Yes, Minister, that program. Am I correct, Akshay? You're talking about...
Yeah. That old program, that comedy show.
I don't remember what it was, but I know what it is. Like,
Yes, wonderfully relevant. Very good point. Yeah. I think viewers might take out the time and want to watch a couple of episodes of Yes, Minister. Brilliantly done. Trust me. There's another Monty Python also. If you want to watch
Yeah,
Monty Python series, Monty
yeah,
Python
yeah.
series is also pretty good.
So Vinayak says, is that why we are arming Armenia? Hmm. When we were
Ar-
talking about the Turkey-Azerbaijan game.
Mhm. Armenia का I don't know. It's a छोटा game plan. You know, these are near sighted planning and near sighted strategic acts actually. More
Yeah.
than more than
No,
arming.
it's also
Ar-
to build a little trust with Iran.
yeah, build a little trust with Iran. Show Turkey which day of the week it is. There's a more symbolic gestures basically.
Yeah. Mm, okay. Pankaj says USA is there to have influence in Europe. It might reduce its footprint and might devise an alternative collective security architecture for its NATO allies to counter Russia.
Could be. As I said, that this discussion is about like hinges on two things. One is United States deciding to stick on, deciding to stay on, or United States deciding to move out. If United States deciding to move out, we had this presentation of half an hour where we did talk about which all powers might come into play. They might try to assert themselves. If United States stays in Europe the way it is, through whatever, through a collective security architecture, as you said, through a modernized, through a upgraded remix 2.0 NATO or whatever, then it continues the way it continues. And then you see the way Europe is gradually dwindling and becoming a wasteland. And, probably, who knows? There's an article I wrote a couple of months back that you're pushing in all the recruitment age Islamists into Europe. Who knows? With the idea of pushing them into Russia tomorrow or day after tomorrow, with Russia already having a problem with the Chechens and all, and all the exiled Chechens hiding in Georgia, so they are waiting for a chance to
Georgia.
return. Yeah,
You never know.
so might could always be again. States are not rational anymore. Anything can happen. This was just a kind of a adda session where we discussed about the
Yeah,
possibilities.
yeah, absolutely. So Harshri has an interesting comment. He says, America behind with Turkey in supplying illegal migrants in Europe, is America destabilizing यूरोप ये अपने वाइट रेस को भी धोखा देते हैं
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, it देखो आईसिस तक अगर जाए ना आदि बिफोर यू से एनीथिंग आईसिस का अगर देख ले द राइज ऑफ आईसिस द स्प्रेड ऑफ आईसिस डूइंग बिजनेस आईसिस विद टर्की आईसिस गेटिंग इट्स आर्म्स फ्रॉम यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स this is 110% a done deal that USA is the one that is pushing all these people from Libya, from North Africa, from Middle East into Europe. अब अपने white वाले को रेस को धोखा देना, I don't know, because who runs USA? Do the whites run USA? I don't know.
I don't think, for me the main thing is what these guys wanted is they knew the order is going to change, right? And
Mm.
this is to pull it as long as you can to kind of hold the governments in place, right? Joe Biden is, I mean, it's called the what the brown democracy of America, the brown Democrats of America. So all these monkeys that have
Okay.
been taken in, they will be given citizenship, and 5 years later they
Yeah,
will
yeah,
vote.
yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why you see ये Donald Trump बोलता है साहब आते साथ मैं डिपोटेशन करूंगा क्योंकि उसको पता नहीं करा तो अगले इलेक्शन क्या हो. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. Sai Karthik Iyer, Adiji, Europe is Germany 99% economy. Apart from that, it doesn't matter if there is other in EU grows or it is
Any other
not
in
irrelevant.
No, you're fairly right because that's how it has been. Europe's powerhouse has always been Germany, but then Germany has always been dependent on Russian exports. So it's a linked chain actually. That is why we were debating. Me and Adi were discussing that if Poland builds up a kind of a naturally gravitates towards Moscow is the term that we used. If it does that, you've got a France which is industrially pretty strong, fairly strong. Of course, it is running through a little bit of a bad patch because of उसका साहिल में थोड़ा problem चल रहा है बोल के. There is a fair chance of reviving their economy. There's a fair chance of Poland building its economy. Condition is they need to look at Russia from a normal lens and not the lens that NATO forces on them. If that happens, then again, if that happens, बहुत सारा conditions है, बहुत सारा permutations है. If that happens, then probably you might have two industrial economic centers in Europe, one in France and one in Poland. Adi, you would want to add?
एक चीज फेंकता हूँ आपके ऊपर. आप कुछ बोल रहे थे, थोड़ा सा कहीं ना कहीं कनेक्शन लगा. आपने बोला साहिल रीजन, फ्रांस, right? They're getting a lot of pushback. If the Americans literally want to kind of push Europe down, the central Europe down, the easiest thing would be to do what they did with Ukraine. इनको फंसाओ, Nord Stream उड़ा दो, ये कर दो, deindustrialize हो गया, totally dependent on America. जी सर. Unless the right rises up there, which, you know, even if it rises up in one country, it does not mean that it will rise up all over Europe. It's very
and
difficult.
the other country.
ठीक है. And today it's not the 1930s where Hitler चुपचाप वो militarize कर रहा था पूरी society को, किसी को पता ही नहीं चला. Only in 36, 37 people realized when the bloody aircraft started flying. Oh, ये क्या है? By the time it was too late, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that easy today. But अगर यूरोप को उसको destabilize करना है, and if you have France as a separate factor, how do you put France in its place? Destabilize the Sahel. Who are the guys that are doing the coups? Who are the guys that are doing the coups? They're all US military trained chaps. All of them.
But the catch is, Adi, these guys are doing the coup. These guys are taking it away, taking their state, so-called, their state back from the clutches of France, but US trained, of course, but they're lining up with Wagner and Russia. So
Yeah,
US के गाल पे भी कांटा मारा है.
वो ठीक है, मारते रहो, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता ना.
Yeah.
Openly क्या हो रहा है और closely क्या हो रहा है, किसको क्या पता है यार.
Oh, by the way, there's this latest video of interview of Eric Prince, Blackwater, that has come out, and he said that this guys needs to be. I mean, there needs to be a government. There needs to be a complete monarchic government kind of a thing which rules over Africa. And then the interviewer asked him, "So are you being a colonialist?" He said, "You bet I'm being a colonialist. I'm absolutely being a colonialist." Because Africa cannot run on its own. These guys are always killing each other, and these guys are always, whatever money they get, they're building their houses and they're buying their yachts, and they're splurging it in the fashion stores of France and Paris and etc. etc. These guys are incapable of ruling them, so Africa needs to be taken back once again. Off topic, fantastic. But मेरे को याद आ गया because we are talking about Africa. So I said, yeah, somebody at least has spoken his mind, at least been honest enough to speak his mind. Come out and say what United States is scared of saying. We need to colonize you guys back once again. You guys are being too assertive for our good. So what you're saying, France reasserting itself, create some kind of a destabilization in Sahel, and France ko to khatam karo jitna bhi ho sake. Well, Sahel has gone the Russian way. That's a different thing, but that's a bridge that
France has solid influence all over Africa, yaar. Especially East Africa, though. Bloody hell. Mozambique, Uganda. अभी भी बहुत solid
influence. That common French financial system and all, अभी वो कम हो रहा है. They are all getting out.
They're in with you in East Africa. आप जो तेल ले रहे हो वहां से, क्या नाम है, मोजाम्बिक से, guess who's making the pipes? Total Energy from France.
अरे तुम तो बात जो कर रहे हो, which is normal business, all this uranium and all, they used to buy at throwaway prices. Their money used to stay in French banks. The entire financial system used to hinge upon the French banks and all. अभी वो थोड़ा कम हो रहा है.
वो थोड़ा ज्यादा था. Let's face it, वो थोड़ा ज्यादा था.
And an interesting thing, since we are discussing about this, I mean, this discussion is running wild. It is going anywhere. If United States is if United States is the one that is creating problem for France in Africa, in an effort to get back to United States, what if France tomorrow decides to patch up its relationship with Russia? Because there was already a Paris-Berlin-Moscow axis which was coming into place before 2022, before 2021. When this Ukraine thing happened, it went down the drain. But there were already a set of very good meetings, and there were a couple of plans, and a lot of analysts were seeing a re-establishment of a Paris-Berlin Moscow axis, which again got destroyed in Ukraine. But the thing is, these guys are practical. At least the leadership of France and I'm guessing Germany, not Germany, if not Germany, then Poland are practical. What stops them from re-establishing this kind of an axis? If that happens, then you can get back to United States. And if that happens, then United States knows that it's game over for USA in Europe at least.
यही तो गेम है. Guys, what do you guys say? You guys like these kind of discussions when we go a little wild and think what is happening in the world? क्योंकि मेरे को तो दिख रहा है, because normally question answer के टाइम पे थोड़ा सा ऑडियंस नीचे हो जाता है, यहाँ पर ऑडियंस ऊपर चढ़ा है. तो I guess people are liking what we are doing. I hope, please let me know, give me your feedback if you guys are enjoying this sort of a discussion. This is an open-ended discussion जब आप geopolitics की बात कर रहे हैं, and oh yeah, huge amount of people. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Huge amount of people. Thank you so much, guys. It's such a honor. Let's take अब ये मेरे को दोबारा अपना नाम बुलवाएंगे, and thank you बुलवाएंगे. Thank you जी. Bottom of my heart. खेल खोदन बनाओ बीज रोपन बेगम.
खेत खोदा.
हाँ. I have a suspicion that British Empire, Five Eyes, and Russian Empire work together to dump the third front when any emerges. EU, China views.
I don't know, boss. This, I have no idea about this. Seems a little far-fetched, but the way things are, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out tomorrow.
Yeah. Let me just show Sahil more. You should do it more often. Love it. 100%. Awesome. Yes, we do. Like, Ro. Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you so much, guys.
So we'll take two more questions here. Once again, thank you so much, brother. 2008 GFC used to dump EU. 2020 COVID used to dump China.
Not sure I got it.
Global financial crisis 2008 was used to dump EU, which is true.
EU. Well, again, there is another point which I think he holds a different kind of a view. Yanis Varoufakis. He had a very pertinent point. He said when America tried to reorganize itself after the 2008 crisis, they could reorganize themselves because there were sacrifices that needed to be made. So one state made sacrifices, the other state went along with it. But when it came to sacrificing, European Union decided to not, and they suddenly found out their identity, and Greeks became Greeks, and Russians became Spain became Spain, and Germans became German. That is the reason why EU failed. So I don't know, with this kind of moves, once you breathe life into this such kind of an activity, it acquires a shape of its own and it mutates every second. So it is very difficult to predict with accuracy कि अच्छा ये मेरे को चाहिए इसीलिए मैं इसको शुरू कर रहा हूँ अगले 5 साल के बाद ये ऐसे ही रहेगा. It doesn't happen. So I don't know. Could be, but there's a fair chance that probably that wasn't the case also.
अच्छा guys, last question लेने से पहले जरा likes जरा जोर से ठोको जैसे पाकिस्तान को ठोक रहे हो. तो जरा जोरों से likes आने चाहिए यार चैनल में, most importantly. And last question from Partha we'll take. Hypothetically, if Turkey is permitted to be a part of the new grouping on one condition, will they give up and vacate Northern Cyprus? Oh, in a heartbeat. They'll do it in a heartbeat. They don't care. It's not Northern Cyprus, by the way. As per Turkey, it is called the Northern Cypriot Republic of Turkey. Which nobody in the world recognizes. What do you think? I think they will do a lot of
but eventually they might, because this guy is an opportunist. He's an opportunist to the core. He's just a big size Qatar. Okay, that's a small pint-sized country, and this is a big one. Well, no offense to Turkish people. I mean, that's a wonderful country, brilliant people. I have got a few very good friends, Turkish friends and all. It's the government that's creating so much of a problem. And it is because of the opportunistic nature of the government that is creating. Yeah, I kind of, agree with you. And these leverages are there for bargaining, as to be used as bargaining chips, Aadi. If I get a good bargain, what is Northern Cyprus to me? Chhod do, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm going to
Last
make a concession somewhere.
last super chat. After this, we won't take any more. Yeah, this become quite late. Manjeet, thank you so much. What will be UK's role in the emerging situation in Europe?
UK has always been a fence sitter ever since I mean, you go back as far as to the two world wars. UK has always been a fence sitter, and UK has intervened, or UK has jumped in only when it has benefited UK. When the time comes, UK considers itself to be a part of Europe. When the time does come, Europe considers itself to be a little different from mainland Europe. So that's been UK's stance throughout. So आगे जाके भी I don't see a chance of that stance changing. UK is there to benefit, to extract, to, you know, in decent terms, to loot as much of mainland Europe as it's possible legally for them. Nothing else. They're not even going to lift a finger if mainland Europe burns tomorrow.
I will only say how much of you will be left. I'm not sure. And after the recent news of the king, I don't know how much of the K will be left as well. So
या यू तो गया के, हाँ के रहेगा, वो दूसरा किंगडम हो जाएगा. The way this pro-Palestinian
the
rallies
kingdom
and
of
all coming
London,
out,
the kingdom of
वो
London.
वो लंदनिस्तान हो जाएगा, वो कुछ ऐसा इंग्लिशस्तान ऐसा हो जाएगा.
So I say the last thing मैं बोलूंगा, मैं बोलता हूँ there are three Pakistans. ठीक
Okay.
है, एक है पाकिस्तान, ठीक है, एक है छोटा पाकिस्तान which is Maldives,
अच्छा.
और एक है वड्डा पाकिस्तान which is कनाडा.
Okay.
ठीक है, तो
Yes,
तीन है.
so you add another Pakistan now, which is like a Pakistan in the making.
तो फिर इसका क्या नाम रखें यार? गाइस जरा सजेशन दो. पाकिस्तान के हिसाब में वो छोटा पाकिस्तान, वड्डा पाकिस्तान थे, पाकिस्तान हो गया है, एक और होना चाहिए बीच में, interim Pakistan, or something like that. We'll have to build up. Arindam, yeah, brother, it's awesome talking to you. I mean, it's honestly quite a brain racker. Maza aa jata hai, and it's always building up of new ideas. I hope you also enjoy this discussion as much as I do. It's fun because one, we get ideas, and one is able to actually think a little harder and stronger in this particular discussion. Thank you so much, and I hope we can continue doing this so that we can understand what's happening in the world. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you so much. Jai Hind. Thank you for having me.
So.